What's up, YouTube fans? Today we're doing a comparison of the FansToys rig with Final Victory, Reckless Combat, and Badcube Huff, all versions of a Masterpiece Huffer. Now, a few things before I get started. I did get this from Mr. Niles F. Thank you very much for sending this my way. It really helps me out doing this comparison. I did a little poll on my channel on YouTube and asked would people be interested in seeing a versus with these two, and a large majority said, hey, we'd also like to see Badcube Huff in there. So that's why we're doing this. And as I always mention with these reviews, I try to be as objective as possible, but of course there's subjectivity involved when you're judging things like this. So if I pick one and you prefer the other, then you win. I really try to do these to help people make a decision for themselves, which direction they want to go and which is going to fit best in their collection. With that being said, let's get started, and we'll start off with accessories. And there we have the accessories included, these, and you can see right away the Final Victory is not in the running here, but they do have two guns. They're unpainted, they're just this blue plastic. But we'll eliminate those and count those against these. So they each have a gun like this. Now these are really kind of cheapy, but we'll count them as equal. Then you've got these bigger guns, whereas Badcube, the Final Victory doesn't have it, so we'll just eliminate that one. And he's got nothing left. So there you go. And here's kind of what you're left with. So the FansToys and Badcube have an additional face. FansToys give you a whole head for some reason, whereas Badcube gave the face. Doesn't matter. You get alternate face with this yelling open mouth. And here's what's left. So FansToys ends up with an extra gun. So we're going to give accessories over to FansToys. We'll talk about the gimmicks on these, and they all have the exact same gimmick. They can pull a Optimus Prime trailer. These two can pull the older MP10 trailer, whereas this one can pull the MP44. MP44 wasn't around when these two came out, so it makes sense. But they all have the same gimmick. And they don't have any other gimmicks really, so we're going to call it a tie on gimmicks. Talk about the cartoon accuracy, and you know what we need to do. We need the cartoon image over there. And let's take a look. All of these have really close colors, but FansToys really nailed the look. Now, we'll talk a little bit later when we get to articulation what that means. But as far as the cartoon, the only one that really nailed the look is FansToys because of the position of the shoulders, the shape of the arms, the shape of the backpack. The Final Victory backpack is gigantic and it just comes way too far. Both the Badcube and the FansToys kind of seem more appropriate. But I'm not going to waste any time. To me personally, FansToys nails the cartoon almost to a fault. So we'll give them cartoon accuracy. Next, we're going to talk about the sculpt on these guys. And it's interesting because they all have a pretty good sculpt. I mean, none of them are like tons of kibble hanging off. Badcube's got a little bit going on the back of the legs, and the Final Victory as well, just for the trailer hitch, but pretty clean overall. The only thing I would say is kind of messy is the back of the Badcube legs. But what really sets the FansToys apart is this cab, right? They've taken the cab, they've flipped it inside out and just made the orange box, which is kind of what the cartoon looks like. It's not supposed to have a cab. Now the Final Victory does it the worst. They've got the full cab there, whereas Badcube, they at least compacted it down and tried to hide it. But because of the legs and also because of the cab situation, I'm going to give FansToys the sculpt. I think they just nailed the sculpt. The proportions also look really good on the FansToys, so we're going to give sculpt over to FansToys. We'll talk about the paint on these figures. Before we do that, I do have to mention the Final Victory here has been customized by Sean Diesel's Body Shop. All the lighter blue here you see on the chest, midsection, and thighs has been added. So here's what he looks like on the box originally. Basically missing paint there. It's all that same light blue plastic throughout, and then the chest is unpainted. So that's kind of how it came, and that's also why I customized it, because I didn't think that looked good. So we cannot give them credit for that paint here in this Versus, because that didn't come from the factory. By the way, I am going to be giving away this custom, really nicely done by Sean Diesel, and this will be on my channel when I hit 7,000 subscribers. We're really close, so keep an eye out on my Facebook page. It's going to be linked in the description below, so you can enter to win this custom. But let's talk about the paint. So we'll start off with FansToys. Pretty much 100% painted the entire figure. There's nothing unpainted on this other than the translucent glass. Really, really well done. On the Final Victory, you do have the orange paint here on the shins and a little bit of accents in the vehicle mode, but that's really it. For Badcube, you've got paint here on the chest, on the face, on the thighs, on the midsection, and then the silver on the arms. And then in the cab, in the truck mode, you have the silver paint and the accents for the headlights, tail lights, markers. So FansToys obviously has the most paint. I also think the paint is just the most brilliant, meaning looking to look at. It really stands out on the shelf. It really shines. That's one thing that FansToys always does right. So we're going to give paint over to FansToys. But close second would be the Badcube here, with Final Victory not even in the running. Next we're going to talk about the build quality, and this is where FansToys usually sets themselves apart because the materials, the hardware, and everything they use just feels superior. This one is no exception. It's very heavy, lots of die cast, light, nice materials. Doesn't feel like it's going to break as you transform it. I also feel like the Badcube is really well built. It does feel solid. It does have die cast in the feet. There's a little bit of hardware, but mostly it's in the feet. The Final Victory doesn't have a lot of die cast. There's die cast in the shins. I guess, sorry, these thighs are die cast too. But it does not feel solid. These shoulder joints are kind of loose. These are a little bit loose. It looks fine, but when you go to pick it up and touch it, it does not feel as solid as the FansToys. And when you're transforming it, same thing. So between the Badcube and FansToys, I don't really have any issues with the build quality. They both seem fine. Then we'll talk about transformation a little bit later. But as far as build, I'll give a tie for FansToys and Badcube. All right, next we'll talk about the articulation on these figures. In order to do that, we'll articulate each figure individually. So the FansToys head is on a rotating swivel. You have to move the backpack a little bit out of the way, but the head goes up to there, down to there, rotates around, no side-to-side movement on the head. Shoulders rotate around on a ratchet joint. They swing on this arm here, but hindered obviously by the sculpt. You'll have a rotation at the elbow, 90-degree bend at the elbow, rotation at the wrist. Single pin for the hands gets you out to there. You have a waist rotation, a millimeter of ab crunch, which I'm not going to count as an ab crunch, so no ab crunch on this one. Hip skirt goes out to there. This side hip skirt really barely moves at all. Leg goes up to there. Back to here, hindered by that flap. Out to the side, hindered by that flap. Rotation at the thigh. A little bit past 90 degrees on the knee. Ankle tilt out to there. No pivot back and forth, unfortunately. You have a rotation, but no pivot. And that's it for FansToys. Now let's take a look at the Final Victory. The head is on a double ball peg, so you get kind of back and forward, way down, and rotation and side to side. And by the way, this helmet comes off. It looks like a Magneto helmet, and that's what it looks like underneath. Kind of scary. But that was painted, the top of that head was painted blue by Sean Diesel. Continuing on, you have a rotation here. It tends to pop this joint out, and that's what I was mentioning in the build quality section, that that's not well done. But it does rotate all the way around, goes up to there. You have a rotation at the elbow, 90-degree bend at the elbow, rotation at the wrist, but no joint on the hand, very chug style hand there. You have a rotation at the waist, ab crunch on this guy, which was kind of surprising. Hip skirts, legs go up to there, back to there, hindered by that piece, out to the side on a ratchet joint. Rotation at the thigh, really wide rotation, 90-degree bend at the knee. Ankle tilt out to there. It does fold down, but you don't get a back and forth, but you can fold it down, mainly for transformation, but that gives you a little bit of additional movement on those ankles. All right, moving on to Badcube, you have the head on a ball joint, so it gets up to there, not hindered by the backpack at all, down to there, rotates all the way around, and side to side do the ball joint. Shoulders go up to there, down to there, so they're on this moving joint, but you also get a little butterfly out of that too. Rotates all the way around in that joint, friction. You have a rotation at the elbow, or I guess the upper elbow or mid, maybe it's the mid bicep. You have a double jointed elbow. Let's see. How far does that get you? It gets you well past 90 degrees. So that's nice. Rotation at the wrist. Single bent fingers get you that far. Yeah, rotation at the waist. No ab crunch, although you can kind of fake it because of the way they designed the legs. I like this because there's no hip skirts to move out of the way. Gives you nice free movement of the legs all the way back and forth. Out to the side on friction. Rotation at the thigh all the way around. 90-degree bend at the knee. Nice and tight. Ankle tilt back and forth to the sides, and it rotates around. So we're going to give articulation over to Badcube. Very clearly, to me, has the most articulation, with the exception of the ab crunch, which I would give to Final Victory, but Badcube is going to take articulation. All right, next we'll talk about the transformation and engineering. And when it comes to transformation, FansToys is typically known for their complex and sometimes frustrating. This one is not that way. The mini bots especially have been somewhat fun and enjoyable to transform. This one I still enjoy. Badcube also, it is known to be transformation frustrating and sort of complex. This one is not as bad either. But out of the three, Final Victory is actually the most fun and simple to transform back and forth. It is the cheapest of the few, and we'll talk about that when we get to cost. But as far as transformation, I got to give it to Final Victory, just the most fun. Now, when it comes to engineering, FansToys really nailed it with this. The magic is in this box right here. So being able to flip this inside, I hide that entire cab away. There's no parts left over. Badcube's got a little bit of parts. Not too bad, but there is some things. So that magic is really where FansToys shines. So I'm going to give engineering over to FansToys. And there you have all three of them transformed into their alt modes. And we'll put the G1 cartoon image there so you can take a look at how it looks comparatively. Now, for me personally, this Final Victory doesn't look anything like it. It's just its own little thing. It kind of looks like a toy truck. It doesn't look like it's trying to be the actual vehicle. So I kind of want to eliminate it from the running just because it doesn't look like Huffer and it doesn't look like the real truck. So it just looks like a vehicle. Now it is pretty clean. If you come to the back here, Final Victory is the cleanest. But one of the weirdest things is it's the smallest truck, but it's the biggest robot. So very, very odd. I'm just going to eliminate this right now. It just doesn't make any sense. It's too small and it doesn't look like Huffer. So between Badcube and FansToys, they both have a pretty clean front cab. They both got the grill here. They both got lights. The Badcube does have rear view mirrors, although I'd argue these do feel kind of flimsy. I don't love the way those feel. Here's the back. Now, I thought Badcube might be cleaner, but in fact, it's not really cleaner. So FansToys from the side is kind of a messy, but Badcube is cleaner from the side. But FansToys is cleaner from the top, but Badcube is kind of messier. So I'm going to give them sort of a tie on the back. I think they just are similar enough that it doesn't matter. So the final factor here is the cost. And just very simple, plain straightforward. The FansToys comes in at $120. The Final Victory comes in at $30. And the Badcube Huff is going to come in at $85. This is a reissue price. I'm not sure if they're original, but right now it's $85. So very easy decision there. Final Victory is going to win on cost. So final thoughts on the comparison. You can see the score there. FansToys is going to win it. I'm not that surprised, to be honest. I'm also not surprised the Final Victory lost it, but they did get a few points, which is actually kind of cool that they were able to at least hold in a couple categories. Now, Badcube is a really good robot. This is actually a good copy too, nice and tight. It feels really good. So if you own this and you're thinking about upgrading, I don't know if there's a convincing argument, even though FansToys won this comparison, to take it on, because there are some limitations. So it really depends what you're looking for in your robot. If you want a lot of articulation, I don't think FansToys is going to win you over, because the Badcube is the best in that category. But if it's finish, paint, materials, build, that kind of thing, then I think FansToys could win you over. So that's kind of how I see it. Me personally, my collection, FansToys is the one for me. That's the one I'm going to keep. I'm not planning to buy the Badcube Huff. So with that being said, it's really up to you and your collection. Me personally, though, FansToys, it is the winner here, and it is the one I prefer. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this review, and we'll see you next time.